Ever get this like weird feeling like you're caught in some kind of invisible web of, I don't know, like predetermined destiny or something?
Oh, tell me about it.
Well, buckle up because today's deep dive is all about how that destiny might actually be, well, inherited. We're talking family trauma, the kind that echoes down the generations, straight from Mark Wolynn's It Didn't Start With You.
Such a powerful book.
Isn't it? It really makes you think about how our parents and grandparents' experiences, their struggles, their fears might be influencing us in ways we don't even realize.
And not just influencing us, but like actively shaping our relationships, our success, even our health.
Exactly. It's kind of mind-blowing. One of the first things that grabbed me was this idea of a life force, this energy that connects us through the generations.
It's like we're all plugged into the same source, right?
Right. Totally. And Wallen describes it as this, like, almost tangible force flowing from parent to child, almost like, I don't know, the main electrical wire in a house. What do you make of that analogy?
I love that analogy
But
because just like with that electrical wire, you might not see the energy itself, but you see the effects, right? You flip a switch and boom, the lights are on. With the life force, it's about recognizing those patterns, the behaviors, even the ways of thinking that we've kind of absorbed without realizing it.
it's like those subtle habits we pick up from our parents without even noticing.
Exactly. Think about it this way. Let's say your grandmother lived through the Great Depression. That experience, the fear of poverty, it gets woven into her very being, right? And that energy, that fear, can ripple down through the generations, potentially influencing your own financial decisions, even if you've never even experienced that kind of hardship.
So it's not just about inheriting grandma's china set. It's like we inherit her emotional responses to life, too.
Precisely. And this is where Wolin's four unconscious themes come in. These patterns of how we relate to that inherited trauma. Merging, rejecting, interrupted bonding, and identification.
Okay, so we're talking about these deeply ingrained patterns that can play out in our lives without us even knowing it. Let's break those down, because I think that's where things get really juicy for our listener. Let's start with merging. What does that look like in real life?
Merging is when we kind of unconsciously take on a parent's pain as our own. The line between their experience and ours gets super blurry. Wolin gives this example of a guy named Gavin. So Gavin starts experiencing all these business failures, right? And turns out these failures were happening at the exact same age as his dad's business struggles. And through therapy, they realized Gavin had internalized his dad's fear of financial ruin, and he was basically living out that inherited anxiety.
Whoa. So, without even knowing it, we could be carrying the weight of our parents' unrealized dreams or their fears, their anxieties. And those burdens can manifest in some pretty tangible ways.
100%. And the important thing to remember is it's not about pointing fingers. It's not about blaming our parents. It's about recognizing the influence their experiences might have on us. And on the flip side of that merging coin, you have rejecting.
So, if merging is about, like, absorbing those feelings, rejecting is about pushing them away.
Exactly. Rejecting usually comes from some unresolved hurt or conflict with a parent. We try to distance ourselves from that pain,
Hmm.
but it can totally mess with our other relationships. There's this woman, Trisha, that Woolen talks about. Trisha kept finding herself drawn to emotionally unavailable partners over and over. And through therapy, she realized that this pattern was rooted in her strained relationship with her own mother, who was really emotionally distant.
So, even when we try to run from those unresolved issues, they have a funny way of, I don't know, popping up in other parts of our
Oh,
lives.
for sure. Which brings us to the third theme, interrupted bonding.
Mm.
This one is huge E when it comes to that early mother-child bond.
Right, because those early experiences really do shape so much of who we become.
100%. So any disruption to that connection, whether it's because of illness, separation, whatever, it can have a lasting impact on how we form attachments later on.
It's like this ripple effect, from those early years that can impact how we connect with people throughout our lives.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how many relationship struggles are really rooted in those early experiences.
It's a huge factor for sure. And, Wolin talks about this woman, Suzanne, who really struggled with physical touch,
Wow.
intimacy, you name it. And it turned out, when she was little, she had this illness that landed her in the hospital, separated from her mom for a really long time, like during a crucial developmental phase.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
And it created this underlying discomfort with physical closeness that stayed with her, even into adulthood.
It really highlights how these seemingly isolated events from our past can have these lasting impacts on us. It's like they become part of our wiring.
Totally. And that brings us to the last of those four themes,
Hmm.
Identification. This one's interesting because it's not just about inheriting stuff from our parents, but from anyone in our family system. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, you name it.
Okay, so it's not just mom and dad. We could be carrying echoes of experiences from, like, our great-great Aunt Edna, even if we never met her.
Exactly. It's wild, right? It's like these echoes can travel through the generations. There's a story in the book about a guy, Todd, who had this like explosive anger. He could never figure out why he had such a short fuse.
Oh, I know a few Todds.
Right. So he starts digging into his family history and discovers this like legacy of violence, all this unresolved conflict passed down for generations.
Wow. So even though he had no conscious memory of those events, he was still carrying the weight of his family's anger. It makes you think, how much of our baggage is really ours? And how much are we carrying for, like, our family tree?
Such a good question. And this is where Wallen introduces this really cool tool, core language. He says our words, even those little phrases we use all the time, can hold clues to those deeper family narratives.
Hold up, our language can reveal those hidden patterns. How does that work?
Think of it like this. Our subconscious is always talking to us, right? And sometimes it speaks through those everyday phrases we use, even if we're not aware of it. Like, have you ever got yourself saying things like, ugh, I just can't catch a break when it comes to money, or like, relationships always seem to end in disaster for me?
Oh my gosh, all the time. What does that have to do with family history?
Those recurring phrases, especially the ones with all that negativity and that sense of, like, inevitability, they can point to those inherited beliefs. Maybe your grandfather struggled financially, and you unconsciously picked up on his language around money.
So it's like our words become these little breadcrumbs leading us back to the root of our, I don't know, our issues. That's incredible.
It is pretty amazing. But here's the thing. It can feel kind of overwhelming, right? Like, what do we do with this information once we have it? It's one thing to know about it, but then what?
Yeah, it's like, great, I'm haunted by my great-great Aunt Edna's fear of squirrels. Now what?
Right. Well, the good news is Wallen doesn't just leave us hanging. He talks a lot about this idea of repairing the connection with our parents.
Yeah. Okay, I have to be honest. That one makes me a little nervous. Like, what if that relationship is, well, complicated? Are we talking like a Hallmark movie reconciliation here?
Not at all. And Woolen is really clear about that. This work is deeply personal, and it's going to look different for everyone. It's not about condoning hurtful behavior or pretending everything's fine and dandy. It's about shifting our perspective, finding a way to understand the forces that shape their lives, which in turn shaped ours.
So it's more about like freeing ourselves than it is about fixing our parents.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our parents, they're products of their own histories, just like we are. It's about finding that compassion, even when it's tough, because that's often where the healing starts.
I can see that. But how do we even start to cultivate compassion when there's all this like hurt and resentment? It's easy to say forgive and forget, but it's so much more complex than that?
You're right. It's
Yeah.
not about just erasing the past. Wolin suggests this really powerful visualization exercise where we picture our mom as a little girl experiencing whatever hardship she went through.
Ooh, that sounds heavy.
It can be. He says, imagine your mom as a child, maybe even a baby, going through those tough moments. It's not about excusing her actions, but about understanding that her responses, her behaviors, were shaped by what she went through. It's about tapping into empathy, seeing her and ourselves with more understanding.
It's like we're not rewriting history, but we're like reframing it?
Exactly. And when we can tap into that empathy, it doesn't erase anything, but it can create the space for us to heal. And maybe, just maybe, it can even shift something in our relationships with our parents, even if it's just internally.
Yeah, even if it's just in our own heart, that's still so powerful.
Right. It's about recognizing that, they did the best they could with what they had, just like we're doing the best we can with what we've got.
It's all about breaking those cycles, those patterns that have been playing out for who knows, maybe generations.
And it's not about blaming anyone.
Yeah.
It's about taking responsibility for our own healing, for understanding how those echoes might be playing out in our lives.
Exactly. Taking ownership of our own stories. Man, this deep dive has been quite a journey. We've covered so much ground. That life force connecting us through generations, those four unconscious themes, merging, rejecting, interrupted bonding, identification, how those can show up in our lives. And then there's that whole core language thing, just wild. So as we wrap things up here, what's like one big takeaway you hope our listeners will walk away with today?
If something in your life just feels off, like you're stuck in a rut, repeating the same patterns in your relationships, your work, whatever. Take a look at your family history. You might be surprised what you find. Remember, it didn't start with you, but you have the power to change the ending.
So powerful. It's like we're not just living our own lives, we're part of this like much bigger story, this incredible tapestry of experience that connects us all.
Absolutely. And understanding that story, our own family's unique narrative, can be the key to unlocking so much healing, so much growth.
It's like we're finally free to write our own chapters,
Yeah.
to break free from those old patterns and create something new, something better. This has been amazing. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
My pleasure. It's been an honor to explore this with you.